Hello there, and good afternoon. Happy tea time, right? It's 3 o'clock. I've got my cup of tea. I don't know about you, but come on in, get settled down, because today we're talking about how to improve your energy levels by changing just one thing. And if that sounds too good to be true, I want you to know that it isn't. What we are talking about today is a game changer. Okay. So it's going to be value packed. You're going to learn a lot. So make sure that you're comfortable and ready to absorb some goodness, right? So for those of you who are familiar with me and the show, I like to share what I'm drinking every day. I'm a huge fan of Buddha teas, and today I am drinking the Third Eye tea. This is the tea for insight and intuition. The third eye, it sits around here. So when we're talking about our thoughts, I'm often drawn to this particular tea. And today we're talking about thoughts. Who knew? All right, so let's get started. First of all, I want you to know who I am, right? If we haven't yet met, my name's Karin Del Maestro. I'm your health and calmness coach. And I'm also a breast cancer and BRCA2 thriver. And so I have walked the path that you are likely on. And I've kind of learned some shortcuts to help get your energy back, which I know for me, it was just the thing that hit me the most was the fatigue, especially after treatment was over. But today's episode is especially for you, whether you're a breast cancer survivor or not. It's especially for you if you can say yes to any of the following. Okay, so you may want to get your fingers up and start to count what resonates with you. Do you want everybody to like you? Right? Do you feel like you go about just wanting to be liked? Right? Do you tend to avoid conflict, kind of suck it up, walk away, or suck up the emotions and not say anything about it? Do you like to make sure that everyone around you is happy, that they're good, that they're taken care of? You're probably the hostess with the mostess if that's you, right? Perhaps you hate saying no. Right? Do you have a hard time saying no when people ask you for things? Even if you don't want to do them, you still find yourself, your inner voice is saying no, but that outer voice says, yeah, right? It's just a tough thing to do. Do you always take on extra responsibility? What do I mean by that? I mean that, you may notice that you're tired, but somebody asks you for something and you still say yes. Or perhaps you've got a day where your to-do list is a mile long and somebody asks you for something and you drop all of the things that you were going to do to help somebody else, right? Always taking on extra, even if your plate is piled high. By the way, I used to be all of these. So if you are relating to them, please know, I get it. I used to be all of these. You apologize all the time, even when it's not your fault. For me, that always feels like a scene from Monty Python where somebody bumps into me and I'm the one that says, sorry, right? It's like we say sorry even when something's not our fault. Do you tend to look for validation constantly from others? Am I wearing the right thing? How does this look? Do you think I should do that? Should I take that job? Should I apply for that job? Should we go here for dinner? Right? Maybe you tend to, or you don't tend to, I should say, share your feelings because you don't want to hurt somebody else. You don't want to upset them. You don't want to rock the apple cart. And perhaps you have a hard time just taking sick days. You don't want to let people down. Right? So today's episode is especially for you. If you can relate or say yes to any of those. Now, what are they? What did I just lift off for you? These are the most common characteristics that we might see in somebody who is known as a people pleaser. Simply put, we tend to put other people's needs before our own. And often we might have trouble advocating for our own needs, right? So we tend to put our needs on the back burner to focus on others. Why we do that is a whole other episode. So I will definitely address that for you another time because it's an interesting topic in and of itself. But I call myself a recovering people pleaser. I used to hit all of those characteristics, but I don't anymore. Part of the reason I don't anymore is, and so here's the good news, right? If I can unlearn them, so can you. And I want you to learn today how it affects your energy. Okay. So there's a really direct link. And so if I can unlearn them, so can you. So really pay attention to today. And I want to let you know that where your mind goes, your energy flows. And with an average number of 100,000 thoughts per day, and that's not when we're anxious, and that's not when our mind is racing and off spinning into going down a rabbit hole, right, as we can, or spinning on the what ifs, or dealing with anxiety, or all the other things that we might be dealing with. On average, 100,000 thoughts per day. It's a lot of thoughts, right? So if you think about that, how can you expect to get your energy back when you, if you can relate to any of those characteristics, are giving every ounce of everything you have to everyone else? And like I said, I get it. I used to do that too, especially after my divorce. And I was a single mom and I wasn't thinking about me. It was always about the kids, the job, my clients, the house, all of the things, all of the things. But what I learned is that that was not serving me. And if we talk for just a minute about our risk of breast cancer, it also doesn't serve us there either. So if we're looking to lower our risk of getting sick again or getting sick in the first place, this is an important topic. So today, and let me know if you're on lives, pop in, say hi. Let me know where you're coming in from. I always love to see who's on. Hi, Jean. Good to see you. Jean's coming in from Texas. I happen to know. Good to see you, Jean. I'm glad you're here. I think you're going to learn something today. And so in today's episode, you're going to learn 3 things that you can't control, but you are likely thinking about. You're going to learn how focusing on what you can't control is actually zapping so much of your energy. And because I never like to leave you hanging, we're going to talk about what to focus on instead. Does that sound good? Yep. Awesome. So let's dive right in. Let me have a sip of my tea. My throat's been super scratchy lately. And I don't know. I'm hoping I'm not coming down with something, right? Kids are back in school. Who else notices all the bugs start going around? Okay. So 3 things that you can't control, but you're likely thinking about. And I think the first one I'm going to talk about, especially for breast cancer survivors, but I think as women or as people who like to plan, one of the things that we think about a lot is the future, right? Now, I'm a planner. I like to plan, although I've learned to do things a bit differently and not stress, but I do like to plan. But if you find yourself going off down the rabbit hole, especially with the what ifs, right? Well, what if I get sick again? What's going to happen to the kids? What's going to happen to my family? What's going to happen to the house, my job? Who's going to take care of this? Who's going to take care of that? I mean, even as I'm saying that, I'm feeling my energy drop, right? And so that is the future. And one of the things that I often say to my clients, and I ask them this question, and please ask yourself, Are you trying to solve problems that you don't yet have? Let me say that again. And if you know that you have a tendency to do this, just pop a 1 in the chat. Even if you're watching the replay, I'm really curious to see. Okay. Are you trying to solve problems that you don't yet have? Because if you are, then your mind is thinking about the future. We can't control the future. All we get to control in life is today, the here, the now. The fact that you're choosing to show up and watch this video. Jean, I see you. Yes. So common, right? So common. And this used to be me. But I'm going to ask you, and as we go into number 2 here, you'll recognize why this doesn't serve you. Okay, but I'm so glad that you recognize that this is something that you have a tendency to do. And I'm going to ask you, right, as we're recognizing these things about ourselves, this is not judgment. Okay, it's, think of it, we're on an adventure where we're being curious, we're looking with observation and curiosity, not judgment. Judgment means that we're beating ourselves up for something, and that is the opposite of what I want you to do. Okay, so we're just saying, okay, being open, saying, is it possible to learn something new? Is it possible to change in some way? The answer is always yes, as long as you're open to doing things differently, right? So the first thing that we can't control is the future. The second thing that we can't control is what happened before, the past. We can't control the past. How much of your day is spent thinking about the past? Decisions that you made that you wish you'd made differently. Perhaps a move that you made that you wished you hadn't. Relationships that perhaps didn't end the way that you wanted, or perhaps your grief, right, is looking back. It's in the past. And the key here, especially with grief or with trauma that's happened in the past, we have to acknowledge it. I believe we have to acknowledge it. And it's okay to feel it. But it's also an understanding that we can't control it. Therefore, if we can't control it, is it worth how many thousands of those thoughts that are sucking your energy dry? That's the question that you get to ask yourself, right? So the first thing you can't control is the future. The second thing you can't control is the past. The third thing that I'm talking about today, and probably the biggest one, especially if you said yes to any of those characteristics before, is you cannot control what people say, what people think, what people believe, what people feel, or what people do. Let me say that again, because I want it to sink in. And drop a 3 in the chat if you have a tendency to do this. Do you think about, right? We've said where our mind goes, our energy flows. I'll get it straight in a minute. So if we're thinking about these things and we can't control it, it's sucking us dry. I'm going to show you how in a minute. But we can't control what people say, what people think, what people believe, what people feel, and what people do. Yeah. I'm seeing some 3s pop up. Yeah. I used to do that all the time. It is typical for any of us who tend to be people pleasers, who want to make others feel good, who want to make others feel happy, who want to take care of others. Where's our mind going? It's going on others, not on ourselves. Right? But we can't control anybody else. Nobody. Okay, it's not to say that we don't care about people. Please, understand that. I'm very caring, I'm very loving. But I help manage my thoughts around those people and think about what can I control and what can't I in this situation. Does that make sense? Drop a yes in the chat if it makes sense, because it's really important that you recognize this. I go into this in more detail in my Crazed to Calm workshop, by the way, but I wanted to kind of give you like a little taste today of what that looks like. So drop a yes if you are recognizing that, yeah, that's part of what you do. So let's take a look here at how focusing on what you can't control is zapping your energy. Now, for those of you that know me, know that I love to do silly diagrams because I'm a visual person, and I think it's always helpful, at least for me, to see something on paper. So I've gone ahead and I've started my drawing so that you guys aren't hanging out waiting for me. And today we've got a teapot, okay, and a whole bunch of teacups, okay? Now, I invite you to think of your body as a teapot. And I grew up in the UK, so I do think it's part of the Brit in me that thinks about this, right? So I invite you to think of your body as that teapot. Your energy level is the level of tea in that pot. Now, most of us, especially after breast cancer, are not waking up in the morning with a full teapot, right? We're already waking up and we're depleted already before we even start the day. Now, what happens is, and imagine this, right? What happens in the morning when you wake up? Where is this going? Where your mind goes, your energy flows. So I invite you to name your teacups. For you, it's different for everybody. But is it going to your to-do list for the day? Are you thinking about your kids? Are you thinking about your schedule? Are you thinking about the laundry? Are you thinking about vacation next year? Are you thinking about your significant other and something that you need to do for them? Where is your mind going first thing in the morning, as soon as you wake up? Is it going to everybody else? Are you picking up your phone? Are you scrolling on social media? The second that you do that, your attention, your energy, your mind, those thoughts are going elsewhere on things that you can't control. So what happens as we're having those thoughts? What's happening to the level of tea in the teapot? It's going down, right? Because where our mind goes, our energy flows. So these are all of our thoughts, all of our teacups, all the things that we're thinking about, and our energy is going to all of those things, then our energy is being depleted. And what happens, and I have a suspicion that you know how this feels. What happens when you're sucked dry? I know for me, I used to start feeling resentful. Oh gosh, something else to do. I remember when the kids are small, can I have a minute to pee, please? Right? When is it my turn? These are some thoughts that we might have. Yours might be different. Feel free to share them if you'd like to. And if you're watching the replays, just share them. I think you'll discover that you're not alone. But what happens is we get angry and resentful. And those are not positive feelings for us to be sucking up, because we're not going to tell anybody, right? We're not going to tell people. Yes, Jean, that's another one. Emotional, right? We lose our patience. We get emotional at the drop of a hat. We might even start snapping at people, right? Losing our temper quickly. And then what happens? We beat ourselves up afterwards, right? because we're human and we're saying, they really didn't deserve that. So if all of those thoughts on everybody else is zapping your teapot of energy, zapping, taking all of the tea out of your teapot, the question becomes, what do I focus on instead? Right? So that my teapot is not getting drained. And the answer is we focus on what we can control. All of these we can't control. So all of these thoughts are not benefiting us in any way at all. In fact, they are stressing us out. They are typically making us anxious and they're sucking our energy. I don't know about you, but for me, that doesn't seem like something that's working, right? So when we focus instead on what we can control, this teapot gets topped up, right? And what does that mean when that happens? Sorry, I'm having a hot flash, guys. What happens when that happens and the teapot gets topped up? We've got more energy for ourselves and for our loved ones to care for the people that we want to spend time with, right? When we start being a little bit more selective. So I know the question is, so Karin, what can we control? We can control our actions, our reactions. We can control whether we choose to hold on to grudges or let them go. Right? Feel the lightness in that. Let it go. It's like taking a big winter coat off, right? What happens when you feel light? Do you feel like you've got more energy? More get up and go? I know I do, right? You get to control whether you choose to be present today, which you did because you showed up for this video. And if you're watching the replay again, you chose to be present and adaptable to change. You can say, no, I'm here. I'm not going to change anything. And perhaps I'm just going to complain about how exhausted I am. That's your choice. I'm not judging. That's your choice. But we also get to choose if we want to be adaptable to change, to see what's possible. Okay? We get to focus on how and with whom you spend your time and your energy. You get to choose that. And a big part of that, obviously, is learning to say no to the people that you don't want to do that with. Again, that's something you can control. You get to choose that. And most importantly, they're all important, but this is such a big one. You can control taking care of your physical, mental, and emotional needs. And yet, how much time, how many of these thoughts, how much energy do you spend thinking about what everybody else needs physically, mentally, emotionally, and draining your teapot, and you can't even control it? Instead of taking care of your physical, mental, and emotional needs, topping up your teapot so that you've got more energy for you and your loved ones. I think that so often we think it has to be an either-or situation, and it doesn't. Not when you do it correctly, right? When we do it correctly and we take care of ourselves correctly, we're going to have more energy. Now, you might be there saying, okay, Karin, well, that sounds great, but I've got no idea how to do that. That's okay. That's my job, right? That's what I do, is I help you how to focus on what you can control. Focus on taking care of your physical, mental, and emotional needs, which, by the way, is really the definition of self-care. Because this one shift to actually focus on what you can control is the game changer, especially when it comes to your energy, when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to stress and feeling overwhelmed. If you're feeling overwhelmed, think about what can I actually control in this? What can I actually control? Right? Does this make sense? Does anybody have any questions on what you can control or what you can't control? Drop it in the chat if you do. Right? And I'm going to start to just recap what we've been talking about today. And then, of course, I'm going to share with you somewhere that you can go to learn more about this, because it truly is. We've barely skimmed the surface today. So if we recap, the one thing that we get to shift to get our energy back, to get more energy, is number one, letting go of what you can't control, which is the future, the past, what people say, do, feel, think, all of the things, right? You can't control any of it. Imagine for a second what that feels like, right? Number two, we looked at the teapot, learning where your energy goes. And number three, focusing on what you can control. Now I see Jean has popped in here. Jean, you're saying, I don't think I really buy into it. What part of it? Let me know, because I'd love to address that for you. I want to give you a hug right now. Jean, let me ask you a question. Thank you for sharing that. And for those of you that can't see, Jean is very openly, and I'm so grateful that you did. Jean shares, I don't yet truly believe I can change. Let me ask you a question, Jean, because Jean happens to be in one of my coaching programs. And do you acknowledge, Jean, that you have seen change since you have been in that coaching program? Have you seen change? Have you seen yourself setting better boundaries? Start again. Setting better boundaries. Have you seen yourself focusing more on making time for you? Have you begun to put you on the to-do list where before you weren't? Definitely. Yeah. Guess what? You're already changing. You're already changing. It's just that when we're in it, right? And this is something too that we can so often get caught up in. We believe that the changes that we've made, and Jean's sharing, she lacks confidence. And there's one way that we build confidence and trust in ourselves. And I normally have that in my clients way before they do. Because what's so cool about this, and as we learn to put ourselves first and we learn to stop putting our needs on the back burner, the cool thing is we can't unlearn it. So that's why when I asked those questions before, Jean, I already knew the answer because I've seen it. I've seen it in our program. I've seen us talk about it. So the confidence comes by building those muscles. Just like in the gym, right? We get stronger as we build our muscles. It's the same thing It's building your self-care muscles. It's building the confidence and the strength that you can, right? And when we have lived a certain way all our lives, we don't change like that. Although I see very quick transitions inside Thrivership School. It's a container where we get definite changes very quickly, often within the first 1 or 2 months. But it's about progress, not perfection. And Jean, you have progressed so much. I've seen it firsthand. And that belief in ourselves comes when we start to keep practicing these things. The more we practice, the better we become. To become a master at anything, it takes 15,000 hours of doing something. It's a long time. I've been practicing self-care the way that I am now, at least over the past 10 years. 10 years. And I keep tweaking and I keep improving and I keep learning. And especially when it comes to this mindset stuff, because for me, after breast cancer, when I couldn't physically do the things that I had done previously, it's like, okay, what's in my toolbox that I get to look at to see what I can do? So instead of looking what I couldn't do, which is where we get stuck so quickly, right? And think about this too, Jean. Are you focusing on what you are not able to do instead of what you are? Because we get stuck there too, right? And so if we're focusing on those things that we can't control, we're not building that confidence muscle and leaning into the things that we can control. That confidence comes with practice. You're in the right container in Thrivership School to get that practice. I promise. I promise. So you will get that practice. You just need to keep showing up for you. But this is for those of you that aren't familiar with Thrivership School, it is the container where I teach you to focus on the things that you can control, to let go of the things that you can't, to learn to put your needs first, to figure out who you are, what you want, learning to say no, self-care, learning about, and my suspicion, Jean, is that there are some old stories that are right now keeping you holding back. Right? We all have old stories, and that's also part of what we look at and identify and learn to work our way through. And be aware of negative Nancy, because she likes to come out a lot. Negative Nancy is the self-talk that is hard on us, that beats us up. You know, the voice that comes into your head when you know that you should be focusing on the things that you could, but you're not, and so you beat yourself up for not doing it. That's we call her Negative Nancy, with no disrespect to anybody called Nancy. And then we also have Positive Pamela, who is our biggest cheerleader, who comes in and says, just like I have, Jean, you've got this. You're on a journey, right? It's not all or nothing. And I don't know that the journey ends while we're still living this life. I don't want mine to end. I love exploring this stuff. So I hope that helps, Jean, and I hope it helped other people who are tuning in here. Something that we know in Thrivership School, whenever somebody shares something, it's not just valuable for one person in the room, right? It ends up helping the whole room. So I know that some people who are listening in just got a lot of value out of what you just said. And Jean, oh, yes, it's that she needed validation. So if we go back to our people-pleasing tendencies, that's one of them, that validation. Right? I will give you the validation, but you don't need it. You'll learn for it to come from in here, to come from yourself, to know. And that's what we learn as we continue on this journey. So to wrap it up today, Right. And I hope this has been helpful, and let me know, just put helpful in the chat if it has. But I invite you to remember that where your mind goes, your energy flows. And ask yourself, how can you possibly expect to get your energy back when you give every ounce of everything you have to everyone else, whether that's thoughts or physically? It doesn't matter. It's still draining your teapot, right? So I have a free gift for those of you today that would like to learn more about this kind of thing, about focusing on what you can control and what you can't. So wherever you're watching this video, you'll see that there's a link to claim your ultimate Crazed to Calm Toolkit so that you can start to learn more about focusing on what you can to help get your energy back. Okay. You'll see I dropped the link, like I said, wherever, depends on you're watching the video. It might be above, might be below, might be to the side. So you'll find it there. But remember that you can, even if your doctors are telling you it's normal to be fatigued, it'll come back eventually. There are things that you can do today. And whether you've been through breast cancer, other trauma, maybe you're just trying to get your footing in life, these things have been a bit wobbly, this will help. Okay, so grab your ultimate Crazed to Calm Toolkit and start working through it so that you can focus on what you can control and get your energy back. Okay, thank you so much for watching today. Grab your toolkit. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat wherever you're watching. And thank you so much for joining us. Again, my name is Karin Del Maestro. I'm your health, transformation, and calmness coach. You can find me over at KarinDelMaestro.com. And there's lots of free resources over there. Feel free to pop in and ask me any questions, however I can help and support. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day. And I will see you next week, if not before. Bye for now.